Hello, everyone. It's Professor Cooling here on Byte TV. And you're watching our holiday commentary of The Fireplace. And with me, as always, to help me with this commentary is our one and only international correspondent, Rob Scott.
A big re-diddly to everyone.
Oh, re-diddly. I like that. Is that a little bit like re-gifting?
No.
Have you
re-gifting is a bad thing. A re-diddly is just to say, we've already said hey diddly today.
Right.
But I still appreciate you and want you to know that I still have the diddly feeling.
You still have the diddly, so you re-diddly me. Do you ever de-diddly someone?
Oh, all the time.
Where you remove the diddly?
Usually cabbies.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Why? Because they don't know where they're going?
They don't know where they're going. They drive like animals, and they say rude things about my odor.
Oh, in South Africa, do animals actually drive cabs?
Animals?
Yes, like
well,
oxen or giraffe.
No, oxen and giraffe don't, because they lack opposable thumbs.
Ah, definitely.
Opposable thumbs are very important for driving. And also remember, most cars in South Africa are manual.
Really?
So maybe here a giraffe could drive a convertible.
Possibly, yeah. We're not too sure, but this particular fireplace, as we've already mentioned, we're having a look at Tim Burton's The Fireplace today. And Rob, let's talk a little bit more about some of the projects that we can see echoed in Tim Burton's Fireplace here. What of his filmmaking career does this particular fireplace remind you of?
Well, little known fact about Tim Burton is that he is related to Valerie Burton Nelly.
Really?
She actually added the Nelly on to try to establish herself. And
you mean like Nelly the rapper?
Yes. That was what she was going for. And Big Fish was originally going to be the story of her life.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I see a lot of Big Fish in this particular thing. And in fact, in the previous segment, you touched on fish and fire. And I was actually thinking there, Big Fish.
Really?
Yes.
Well, did Big Fish originally, was the plan to have everyone smoke the fish at the end and have everyone die? Was that sort of the idea, or?
Well, not have everyone die, just enjoy the really big fish.
Right.
Yes.
And in terms of my sort of thoughts here as to where this is going, I see a lot of Ed Wood. I see his film Ed Wood starring Johnny Depp, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Martin Landau, particularly through the link of Ed Wood's last name was Wood.
Oh.
And in The Fireplace, we are watching wood burn. And essentially, Ed's career burned in front of us.
And don't forget that Ed is Scandinavian colloquialism.
I'm a professor of English.
Anyway, Ed
that doesn't sound like English.
For burn.
Colloquialism. Which is sort of a...
just everyday jargon.
Okay.
Like in Canada, you say A. And in Brazil, they say B.
What do they say in South Africa?
We usually say oak.
Oak. Which itself is wood. Which makes great sense here. Do we see a little bit of Mars Attacks here? Is there a little bit of a science fiction sort of aspect going on here?
Oh, I definitely see a science fiction aspect here. I mean, fire itself, Kubrick himself, in 2001, tried to bring to the fore the scientific mysticism of fire. Because you can't watch fire without thinking otherworldly, the great unknown.
Well, that's the thing. For me, I start to think, what lasers were fired to start this fire? Because we all know you can't start fire without lasers, correct?
That is true.
And I mean, we've learned this constantly, that with lasers, thanks to Ronald Reagan, we would have ways to start fire around the globe.
Laser eye surgery.
Oh.
I believe that the lasers used for that cannot start appropriate fires.
Really?
So you are safe from having your eyes burned out.
You're having your eyes totally burned out, And are we at risk here of having our eyes burned out as we watch this?
I think we're at a safe distance.
Right.
But if we wanted to tempt fate, we could scooch a little closer.
Well, why don't you and I scooch a little closer? We'll ask our viewers to just make sure they sit appropriate distance back. The first few rows might burn to death and have their eyes melt.
Well, I want all of you at home to know right now you're watching exciting TV. At any moment, one of us could burst into flames.
I'm going to put my money on you.
Well, I like it when people put money on me.
I prefer when people put money on me.
I used to do a job where people put a lot of money on me in my pants, just generally in my vicinity.
Were you working as a stock trader like I was?
No.
No. Something with an S? Starts with an S?
It did have... there were stockings. I did wear stockings.
Stockings of some kind. Now, the one question that this fire, to me, brings up is a real question of where we are. You know, we can only see the fireplace, but we don't see what surrounds it. Are we in, you know, a very urban center like Kuala Lumpur, or are we just sort of in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania? Rob, what do you think?
That's the beauty of a fire, Peter. It's
Professor Cooling.
Oh my! I'm so sorry, Professor. You see, a fire it just is so everyday and so consistent. I mean, when you watch this, if you're on minute 8 or minute 6, the differences are so minute, you're never quite sure where you are. Like in real life, like every day. Is your Tuesday that different from 3 years ago Tuesday?
Not entirely.
Not entirely.
No. I always sort of had dreams that I worked on a, late night talk show, even when I didn't work on one. So perhaps it's about the same. So really, essentially, you say that this fireplace is a national or international
global,
universal.
This is the real global warming right here.
Intergalactical, mega intergalactical. What's the next step? Does this fireplace, is this the next Big Bang?
The next Big Bang?
Have you ever had a Big Bang in front of the fireplace?
Yes.
You know,
my grandmother killed my grandfather in front of the fireplace.
Oh, really?
It's okay. I was 7 years old, so all the scarring was deeply, deeply embedded deep in my subconscious.
Well, deep. So
yes.
All that should get you thinking about it is perhaps Hallmark cards. That's about it. But I personally remember I used to lounge in front of the fire with an old friend, Marilyn Monroe, and I used to often sit around on a large bear rug. And she was someone I used to cover in money, let me tell you. And when I helped her plan her fake death so that she could totally milk the market and become an icon, she really didn't need my help. Let's be honest. She was doing fairly well on her own.
But you made her a star.
That's right. And all happened after the Big Bang in front of that fireplace, definitely. But for me, I think one thing this fire often makes me think about also is virtual fire. It gets me thinking about where fireplaces are going to go. Are they going to remain elements of the human domain, Rob? Or are we going to have fireplaces that exist like internet avatars and online? What do you think?
I think physical, actual fires are always going to be a part of humanity. Now, maybe you can substitute your need for fire by going to websites and watching virtual ones, but it'll never completely replace it.
Right.
Much like Facebook will never replace human interaction. You will still need to see people.
Right. Is that what we're having right now, human interaction?
Right now? Almost.
And how about with our viewers? Are we having human interaction?
Oh, they are interacting with us right now.
Yes. Interesting. Okay.
In fact, you might want to say we are touching them, provided they're of age.
Of age, which can vary, based on
the country
or even the province. I believe.
So if you're going to be touched by this broadcast, please make sure you are of age in your community.
Definitely. Now, when we talk about fireplaces, we often also want to think about where we've seen them in cinema and popular culture. And there are many, many fireplaces out there. Perhaps I could ask you to start, Mr. Scott, if there is a fireplace that, to you, you think of through a metonymic link here.
Have you ever seen Candyman?
Is that the horror film by Clive Barker?
That is the horror film.
Did Clive Barker direct that?
Let's just say he did.
Okay.
Yes. And in fact, that story was about a man who was covered in bees and then burned to death in a fireplace.
Really?
Yes.
And that's the whole story. So we've seen Candyman now.
No. But afterwards, you have to go to a mirror and shave, and he will return from the dead to kill you.
Oh, that's interesting. It sounds a lot like this new movie, Case 39, which has Bradley Whitford dying by bees as well. So
Bradley Whitford?
Yes.
I didn't know he was deceased.
Oh, he's not. Bradley Cooper, The Hangover.
The Hangover.
That's what I mean. Bradley Whitford from The West Wing did not die to death of bee stings, but
Bradley Cooper will be missed.
He will be. But so back to the Candyman.
Candyman, yes.
That's about it.
And of course, Christmas candy.
Christmas candy. Oh, I see where you're going with this, Rob.
That's kind of why I'm feeling
that gets an A+ for linkage.
Linkage? I got an A+. I never got an A+ when I was at Rhodes University.
Well, now you're at Professor Cooling's university, which to this moment will remain unnamed until it gets accreditation from the government of the world.
I must say I like this course.
It's a bird course. But, for me, I start to think of other important fireplaces, like the fireplace in Touch of Evil. This classic moment when, and it may have been cut out of the film entirely, when Orson Welles throws Chuck Heston into the fire, and he emerges from the trunk of the car to stop the explosion from the first 3-minute tracking shot. It was a great way to sort of play with time and space, which was something that I think happened so well in that particular film. Or the fireplace in the Jack Lemmon movie, The Apartment. You remember The Apartment?
I do remember The Apartment.
I think they had an alternate ending where he grabbed Shirley MacLaine, was it, and held her face into the fire.
I think it was her hair.
Probably her hair.
Probably, you don't want to damage that face.
No. Well, I mean, they would do it with special effects and makeup. And
remember, this was the 60s?
1960-something.
They didn't have special effects back then. Everything you saw on film pre-Star Wars was actually done in the studio.
Really?
Yes, that is why the people who died in films were always unknown actors.
So in A Night to Remember, and even the Titanic film called Titanic, before the James Cameron Titanic, they all died and a boat sank.
Yes.
And James Cameron faked it.
James Cameron faked it with the magic of special effects.
Because he's a faker.
Yes. And no one had to die, though. It was great.
Wow. So this has been going on for a long time.
Well, it's ended. It's been how many years since the 60s?
Lots
of years since the 60s. So.
I also think back to that great Norman Rockwell painting, Granny's Fireplace. You remember that one?
I do remember.
I don't think it's hanging anywhere, but I've seen it.
No, I have a illegitimate copy. In my apartment, actually.
Well, you should definitely go and
Norman
check that out.
Rockwell was a great man.
He was. And, he definitely captured something with that particular painting. What about songs about the fireplace? What does this, in the musical realm, what does this make you think of?
Well, the beginning of this, the fire is already there. So we're all kind of wondering, who started this fire? And you know what? I can tell you. We didn't start the fire.
We definitely did not start this fire, and there were a lot of other things that didn't start this fire, but we really want to know the source. Isn't that what that song's...
That's what that song is building towards.
Wow.
And it's, of course, the acceptance that the fire is here.
Right.
Billy Joel Armstrong.
Yes.
That's who wrote it, right.
Louis' brother.
Louis
Armstrong.
And, of course, the lead singer of Green Day.
Exactly.
When he did he had a long-ranging solo career before Green Day.
Right.
Uptown Girls.
Uptown Girls, yes. With Brittany Murphy.
Great movie.
Exactly. That couldn't be better. And I start to personally think of that sort of, what was it, an alternative rock song, Firestarter? Is that not also something here?
It's definitely got the same kind of themes, but that song was by The Prodigy.
Yes.
Of Billy Joel.
Oh.
And he was claiming that he was the Firestarter. And of course, who listens to Prodigy anymore? So,
right.
Obviously a false claim.
Right. In terms of great literature, I often, when thinking about fireplaces, go back to Stephen King's Firestarter, which is said without the kind of Prodigy-ish German angry accentness. But that was a pretty interesting book. The thought that a girl could just start fires.
With her mind.
Imagine if she was a chef. Imagine what she could do to the cooking industry.
That would be amazing.
We don't need natural gas. We just have Drew Barrymore start fires.
All the best French cuisine is called soufflé. What is that?
Isn't it called Flame On?
Flame On? Oh,
I often think of the Fantastic Four and the Fantastic French. And the Human Torch, let's talk about that.
He got bitten by a radioactive fire, and that's how he got his abilities.
Exactly. That makes total sense.
I know. Stan Lee he wasn't that original. Iron Man, bitten by a radioactive piece of iron.
Right.
Batman, bitten by John McClane.
And what about Wolverine?
Wolverine?
Radioactive Wolverine?
Oh, no. I think he was a mutant.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes total sense. In terms of this particular fireplace, Rob, now we know you did some digging with your extreme international journalism sort of interest, and this has been a project that has been passed off time and time again. I know Kevin Smith wanted to do the fireplace, but when he cast Nick Cage, they said no. And
Nick Cage, I must say, he has a hard time catching a break.
Well, the guy's doused in alcohol, though. I mean, if he plays the Fireplace, Leaving Las Vegas goes up in smoke.
Oh,
right?
but I think that would have been a fantastic, a very passionate performance.
Right.
It brings us back to bees. Did anyone see the remake of The Wicker Man? Far superior.
Oh, no, I didn't
Nicolas
see it.
Cage dresses in a bear suit and runs up to the heathen, pagan, Wiccan lady and punches her in
Sure.
the face. Very symbolic of nature versus religion.
Right.
Which is, of course, what the Bible is truly about.
Well, true. And going back to that, perhaps we should talk a little bit about religion and the Bible. There's a lot of talk these days about different types of interfaith holidays or ways in which we approach the holiday time. We know that there's Christmas, there's Hanukkah, there's Kwanzaa, there's something else. And the real question that we really need to address here is, should we put, with Christ being a Jew, should we put all the Jews back in Christmas, Rob? What do you think?
I kind of think that's a bad idea, economically speaking. Fantastic
really? I'm interested
politically,
in this.
But remember, Hanukkah ranges from 7 days. And if you're going to suddenly have Hanukkah and Christmas reuniting again, that's 8 days.
No, Christmas
of
is
gifts.
12 days. Christmas has 12 days, the 12 days of Christmas, Rob.
Yes, but we that is an old pastime.
Well, but you know that the 12 days of Christmas is a celebration of the Feast of the Epiphany, and that, we have to have 5 golden rings and all of these wonderful, the song?
Yes, the ring, one ring to rule them all.
And 5 golden rings.
One for the men, one for the elves, the dwarves.
There's 3 kings, I think.
3 kings.
Maybe
of
George
Orientar.
Clooney shows up. Yeah, George Clooney and the other 2 from Orientar.
Oh, yes, Mark Wahlberg and Ice Cube.
Yes, the 3 kings, plus a man and a woman, 1 ring to rule them all. That's exactly it. Is there room in Christmas for Tolkien-esque sort of fantasy faith?
I don't think there was Christmas before Tolkien.
Really?
Yes.
I'm intrigued. Did he create it all? Because if so, his world is so far ancient.
Every Christmas, I like to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy back to back.
Right.
Because, Tolkien wrote that how many years ago? 7,000?
Yes. He wrote it in Sanskrit.
The oldest book we have.
On tablets.
On tablets.
He's the first to say 2012 was the end of the world, too.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you have to do the math. In Elvish, it's like times 400.5. Don't even worry about it.
Only Bertrand Russell could truly grasp elven maths.
No, it's a whole different world. We don't want to think about that too much. But economically, as you were saying, Rob, this idea of bringing other people into Christmas is very much an economic holiday. And I do think there is definitely room to start cross-marketing Hanukkah Mass, and having some way to combine this, bringing that Jewish money back into the Christmas sales would be amazing. Right now, they seem to be getting deals, but happening, at all different times. There's no sort of coordination. I think perhaps there might be room to Kwanzaa Hanukkah Famas it up. Sorry, that might have been a word. I'm not exactly sure.
Why are we limiting the holiday to holidays that coincide? Think
Right.
about it. Disney just acquired Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios are responsible for the X-Men. The holiday is known as Xmas. How about X-Men Mass?
X-Men Mass.
X-Men Mass. That
Wow.
would be a Hollywood blockbuster.
You could put a Cyclops on the top of your tree. Iceman could make sure everything's covered in snow.
Exactly. Santa doesn't explain snow. How do
Exactly.
the reindeers?
And who wants
Iceman?
I'd love to go shopping with Colossus. He would knock through all the lines.
Exactly.
It's perfect. Wow, that's a great idea. So you're thinking cross-marketing through different kinds of things.
Different kinds of things.
Now, that's completely interesting. Now, back to this Fireplace. We're actually getting to a very pivotal point in the narrative now, Rob. We're kind of coming up to a major point. So why don't you explain to us what the climax is of this Fireplace film by Tim Burton? What's happening right now?
Well, I think up until this point, this fire has just kind of been burning along. He's been the everyman of fires. And right now, there's going to be a turn that is going to set him on course to, of course, become the true fire.
Right. So he has some doubt. The Fireplace himself.
The fire? No, not the fireplace. The fireplace is just the setting, the stage, if you will.
Right.
I believe it was Oscar Wilde who said, "We put people on stages, but stages are not people."
Right.
Yes.
And we know Oscar Wilde was flaming, so that does make sense here, definitely.
Of course.
But so right now there's some doubt, and here we're seeing the true performance of the fire. Let's have a look. Right here, he's about to tell the wood what?
He's about to tell the wood that he is his father.
Oh,
and
that's some intense stuff.
And you've got to understand that this revelation is pretty groundbreaking because wood is usually the father of the fire. So in order for the father to be the father of the wood,
it's like a chicken egg thing.
Had to have done some form of time travel.
So this is like
futuresque.
Back to the Future. This is like Christopher Lloyd and Marty McFly.
Yes. Originally, Robert Zemeckis had a scene where Marty McSorley impregnated his own mother with his own seed.
I don't think it's Marty McSorley, isn't it?
No, it's Marty McSorley.
Oh, okay.
Marty McSorley, who was also on the LA Kings.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Another king for our three kings of Christmas.
To the Future, true story.
Well, it is. The Libyans are still a threat, and that's the warning of that film. That they have all this plutonium, and it's going to be a problem unless get in your DeLorean now and stop them. That's definitely it.
I never leave home without my flux capacitor.
Exactly. How many gigawatts does it take to light me up? As long as the economy is full of energy, I'm ready to go. But, there are some other things that, we should think about when we're talking about holidays and the fireplace as well. And one of them that I want to bring up, I'm working on a new book right now. It's called The Red Threat of Christmas. And, I want to focus a little bit on some of the problems, that come about. These characters, Rob. What is with this idea of characters? I can't stand people who play a caricature of themselves or who represent some bizarre sort of thing. How does that make you feel, Rob?
I only like people who are genuine. Exactly. I'm a journalist. I like to get to the truth.
Yes.
The truthiness of it all, to quote Stephen Colbert.
Yes. That makes total sense to me. Now, when we look at something like Frosty the Snowman, what sort of things does this start to get you? I have a thought here, Rob, but I just want to get your initial impressions of this Merriment Snowman.
I think before we talk about Frosty the Snowman, we just need to contextualize your book a little.
Yes.
Because a lot of people think the Cold War was called that because there was no actual violence. But it was called the Cold War because it was the battle between capitalist countries and communist countries over the narrative of this Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, we won, us capitalists. And we now own Christmas. But there was a time where, Santa looks more like Stalin than anyone else in the West.
Exactly.
And that was because the communist agenda really picked it up there. And in the 40s, it looked like Christmas was going to be a red event.
Yeah, and we have to ask ourselves why the Axis continually chose, the Nazis were a leftist political group, and Hitler's colors, Santa's colors. Think about it. They all sort of fall into line there. And there are associations we make, whether it's Germany or Russia or any of these places. But your feelings, Rob, about the attitude that Frosty appears to children. Is this... this idea that school, leftist universities, luckily I work at a private school, so, we can teach very right-wing capitalist edicts, but Frosty appearing to children, is that a threat?
Of course it's a threat. Children are impressionable, and they'll believe pretty much anything you tell them. In fact, I saw a 7-year-old out there on the street, and I told him there was free candy at the mall. And he ran away laughing, and, well, he's going to be very disappointed. Right.
When he gets there, he's going to realize there's nothing. But the fact that, this idea of frost, and he wears, all his magic comes from his hat. And is that an interesting note?
Yes, well, we all know that the hat is metaphorical for an education.
Oh, yes.
And an education is something that communism believes in. They want everyone to be educated.
I believe in education of a certain variety, but you're right. Communism wants everyone.
But if you can afford it, communism wants everyone to be educated. The workers to be educated so
That's
they can revolt.
Rob. Yes.
And let's just say revolting is exactly that. Revolting.
The proletariat is revolting.
Yes.
That's completely it. And this thing about magical hats, it often creates a bit of concern for me because, elves have hats, Santa Claus has hats, Walker Texas Ranger has a hat. These are things that, are potentially threatening. And I think we need to be aware of, when hats appear and how that symbolizes a sort of leftist free market destruction of the economy. You know, we have to be sure we avoid this sort of Bolshevik attack that seems to be happening. And let's talk a little bit about Rudolph. You know, how is it that a red-nosed reindeer can still be at the front of a pack in a truly sort of leftist organization of all these sort of these reindeer things? You know, this red sled should have all of its reindeer equally laid out across, yet the red nose is the nose that helps get us through. And we all know what that also is a symbol for.
A woman coming of age.
True. I was also going to say possibly drug abuse. You know, the red nose. You know, it could be snorting something a little unfriendly. Something about snow. There could be some bad stuff going on in Rudolph's little world, and he's bringing that red thread home to us. So it's not only a leftism from Russia, but it's the communist policies of South America in today's modern day and age. Hugo Chavez, you better watch out. We're on to you. We know what's going on with that. Now, before we close off on the fireplace here, Rob, we do have to talk about one thing. Why can't we email Santa?
Why can't we email Santa? It's a good question.
You know, he needs our list. He needs to know what's going on. Why can we not send him an email? Has he not gotten with the technology?
No, I believe Santa is a technophobe.
Oh, completely. And we have a no-phobe policy.
I mean, how easy would it be? Because email is not good enough for a Christmas list. What would be great for a Christmas list? Twitter.
Oh, really?
Just any time of the day when I think of a present I want, at Reply Santa.
Exactly.
But Santa, he's not on Twitter.
Does Santa get a fail then?
Santa gets a massive fail.
Well, I mean, you know, because
you are the professor.
I am the professor, and I will give him a fail. I will give him an F for that. But it makes you wonder, you know, where is Santa's MySpace page? Why doesn't he have, you know, various other Christmas carols and things on his MySpace page? Why does he not have an email address? What is it? Santa@northpole.com? Northpole.org? Is he a, you know, free site? Possibly. I'm not exactly sure. But Santa needs to get with it. And where's his Facebook profile?
That is a good question.
He is a man who has built his whole career on having such a face.
There's a lot of fake Facebook profiles of Santa.
True. Yes.
Yeah. And, well, the real man really needs to step up to the plate. He needs to stop being so archaic. Someone in his elf army has convinced him to give out toys that are upgraded. But he still can't upgrade himself in the way he's communicating.
And he's still not giving batteries with the toys.
Maybe it wouldn't take him 365 days a year to prepare for Christmas if he was online using the new technology.
That's true.
We could have Christmas twice a year.
Yeah, he would know that would be great.
I think what that would do for the economy.
That would be a great way to restructure this economy.
I mean, I think the auto industry could really use a spike in July as well as December.
Right. So you're thinking people should buy Fords and buy American and try to buy them twice a year.
You don't want to buy a European car because they move backwards.
No, it's true.
They drive in reverse in those countries.
No, completely. That makes total sense.
It's ridiculous.
Do you have any big plans for Boxing Day shopping, Rob?
Yes, I am going to stock up on boxes.
Oh. You're going to take it literally, and you're going to find a way to work with the actual boxes.
Well, you've just got to look at what's happening on Boxing Day. Everyone is rushing out and buying all these sales and leaving all these empty boxes in the store.
Right.
So if I buy them all now, there's going to be a box shortage that I will capitalize on because I have an abundance of the resource.
And that's just good recessionomics from what I can tell.
I believe that is good recessionomics.
Now, our closing thoughts on the fireplace. What do you think about it, Rob? As we come to a close, what do you think?
Well, the Academy has just extended its Best Picture nominees to 10.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure, come the Oscar nominees in February, this is getting on there.
The Fireplace and Tim Burton for Best Director?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, and maybe Best Special Effects, Best Sound.
Sound. Bill Pope. I think he needs another nomination.
The photography. The photography in this is absolutely great. It's taught me so much as a cameraman as well, and it's definitely got that exact kind of essence that we need. My final thought on this is that it gets me thinking about the fireplace too. I really want to know where this flame keeps burning, and I want to maybe even have Fireplace the prequel.
I would, a prequel, that would be interesting. But you know what I'd like to see in a sequel? The Fireplace. Upgrading to the Olympic flame.
And that's definitely going to happen.
Journey around the world. Bigger budget.
And thanks everyone for joining us. That's been our Fireplace commentary here on Byte.